We're back. We're back in the building. Welcome to the newest episode of Generations of the Game. I'm one of your co-hosts, JP, and of course got the co-pilot, the co-host, the man who makes everything poppin'. Introduce yourself, brother.
JP, what's good, bro? World, what's going on? It's Will Lyons from the Den. You already know. Like JP said, we back. No cook crack. Say no to drugs.
Yes, indeed, bro. Yes, indeed. And a whole lot has been going on since our last episode. Let's start first with the NBA playoffs. And, we don't need to go into the first rounds because, everybody basically did their thing except Cleveland because of the injuries and stuff. But let's start off with your team, OKC versus Minnesota, bruh. Tonight's a pivotal game. I would think tonight's a pivotal game. What do you think, good brother?
This game, in my opinion, determines the series because the energy that Minnesota came out with in Game 3, if they keep it and dominate again in Game 4, I feel like I'm an OKC fan, but it's hard to come back from that mentally. You know what I mean? Like, you're the favorites. You're supposed to be the world beaters. You come in, you have two impressive victories, and when you really didn't even play your best, in games 1 and 2, and then you get your ass kicked in game 3, like the way that they did, a historic loss. So, this game is going to show us, the mental makeup of, SGA, of Jalen Williams, of the rest of that team, and also of the Warriors. We saw that they're not willing to just lay down, but sometimes we see teams, you shoot your best shot, like now we're going to see. I think, I thought this had the potential of a 7-game series, and it still could for sure, but that Molly whopping, I feel like that was a reset that was needed for OKC. Everything was going in their way. SGA just got his MVP trophy. Everything. JP, we could be honest. Shit was sweet. You know what I'm saying? And Minnesota reminded them that it absolutely is not.
Yeah, bro. The first 2 games, man, OKC looked very, very impressive, man. That last game, man, them boys, man, Minnesota was playing like it was the last meal at the table or something. Like it was the last piece of steak, and they were sitting there fighting, especially Ant, man. That first quarter, man, that boy was going off, bro. That boy act like he was fighting for his life, man, when they were playing,
Yep.
And especially the first quarter, he set the tone. He set the tone for the whole game, and for Minnesota, they played well. They were very physical, which I don't think OKC answered back with the physicality that Minnesota played with. Ant was on one, but Will, sometimes you're going to have games like that, bruh. You don't want to have 2 games in a row like that, but even now, every now and then, you're going to have a game like that. I can remember they called the Memorial Day Massacre up in Boston when Boston played the Lakers back in '85, and they lost, what was it, 148 to 114. Robert Parrish is beating Kareem up and down the court. Man, it was like he beat Kareem like a drum. Kareem had his worst game of his career, and the Lakers didn't look good at all. But the next 6 games, they put it on them. But yeah, get to this game, man. Minnesota was hot from the outside. They shot the ball very well, rebounded very well. Julius Randle had himself a great game. He bounced back, had himself. That was the key, I thought, to them winning too, was Julius Randle. Not only Ant setting the tone, but Julius Randle also with how he played. DiVincenzo, he gave him some good minutes off the bench. McDaniels played well, played great defense and scored when he had to. So, they did their thing, man. And for OKC, they just didn't shoot the ball well. They just didn't show up. So we'll see, especially, the MVP of the league. You're going to have a bad game every now and then. And I'm sure he'll be ready tonight to step up and see what he's going to do. What do you see for tonight, bro?
I think OKC comes back with a vengeance. I don't think it necessarily is a blowout. I think we begin to see the more even matchup. that a lot of people thought it would be.
Mhm.
You know, like two heavyweights, you know, just going round for round. You know, I think this is the type. This game three is the type of game as a coach. You literally don't even like waste your breath. You like, look, we throwing the tape out. You know what happened. You know they outmatched our energy. They were more physical. On a game four. Let's get it. You know, like there's no point to analyze the game tape and all of that, you know, because honestly, Minnesota nor OKC really did anything different as far as like the plays they run and all of that. It was the
Mhm.
energy and the approach, you know, like you said, Randall and Ant came out ready, you know what I'm saying, to go. Um, and Randall, he's way too physical for Chet. It's literally nothing
Yeah.
that they can do about that, you know, except put somebody else on, you know, and he's an X factor really for Minnesota. Bro, that I will move on, but that was such a dominant performance, bro. They had Rob Dillingham, Terrence Shannon Jr., and Leonard Miller getting minutes, bro.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't think they played the whole playoffs, you know, and rightfully so. They're like rookies and second year players, but you get what I'm saying. Like it was that type
Yeah.
of, you know, beat down. So you just move on. You know, you hope that the confidence that you built in the regular season, if you're OKC, you know, continues to carry on. Don't let this, you know, shake you. You know, you the MVP for a reason. You know, Shea, J Dub All Star. You know, look, man, go out there and show them, remind them, you know, who you are.
Mhm. You know, it's funny you said it about Terrence Shannon. 'Cause I thought he made a difference in that game the other night too, with the energy that he came coming off the
He
bench, giving
definitely
them
did.
15 points, bro. And we know Terrence Shannon could play. We
Hmm.
know that from him being in Illinois. He just had his opportunity the other night, and eventually Rob Dillingham, he's going to take over eventually, about next, maybe another year or two for Mike Conley. You know, and not only that, there we also had Bones. You know, what I mean, he's on the bench. You know, he will get some minutes next year. This team, man, Minnesota is they're going to be just like just like the Thunder. They're going to be around for a minute, bro. You
Oh,
know,
absolutely.
not there. Chris Finch is also a very good coach. You know, he made the adjustments. So it's going to be a very interesting series to see what's going on from here on out. As it's now, was it best of four now?
Yep,
So it's the race.
facts.
It's the race to four. Okay, OKC halfway there. But the thing
Hmm.
about it is, can they close the deal in the final four games? All they need is two of the final four games because they close the deal. And you
Absolutely.
know what I mean?
But
We'll see.
the pressure's on them. You know, Minnesota, they playing essentially with no pressure on them right now.
Right. All the pressure's on OKC. And
Hmm.
you know what they say? They say pressure bust pipe sometime.
Yeah, or
But
it'll make a diamond. We gonna see.
we're going to see, bruh. We're going to see. So you know it's going to be very interesting. Um, let's move on, Will, to our next topic here. Man, you know, unfortunately, we got to talk about the Knicks, man. The Knicks and Pacers series. You know, I hate the Knicks as much as I hate the Celtics, man. That fan, you know what it is? It's the fan base. The fan base reminds me of Dallas Cowboy fan base slash pre-Eagles Super Bowl fan base. That's what the New York Knicks fan base reminds me of. You know, I mean, Will, come on, man. The second round, you beat Boston, and you could have sworn they won the championship the way people were out there on Fifth Avenue, the way they were after
Oh
they
yeah.
won that series against Boston. I'm like, wait a minute, was a championship won in New York City, or what? It looked crazy.
I mean, you know how that's how it goes, man. Like there hasn't been a championship won in the majority of the younger portion of the fan base's lifetime. You know, they don't even
Yeah,
remember them being in the finals. You know, so
right.
for them, this is the furthest the Knicks have reached in some people's lifetime. You know,
Yeah,
so I get it, but you're right though. Like, you know, if this was after, you know, winning a championship, the banner is hung, okay, cool, you know, the confetti fell, it is what it is, but you know, you do all of this and then, you know, you come out and get bullied, you know, by Indiana, you know.
yeah.
But they look like they're trying to respond. Big
They
Bodega got something to say.
they're trying to. Who's that?
They calling Cat the Big Bodega.
Yeah, the big bodega. Yeah, Cause you know what, bro? I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I ain't calling no man no big body, man. I'm not calling no Rick Brunson big body Brunson, bro.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
come on, bro. Come
nah,
on, bro.
they gotta find
Nah,
another
bro.
name for him.
You gotta come up with a different name for him, man. Talking about some big body, bro. I ain't calling no man that,
Mhm.
bro. Nah. Nah, man. I mean, to each their own, no discrimination our way, but, I ain't not
Mhm.
calling no man no big body, man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, man, I think what happened was, especially the first two games with Indiana, and they seemed to have gotten away from that yesterday. I felt as though that Indiana got away from their identity yesterday, and they played the Knicks type of game instead of playing their game. Their type of game is to always be running with the ball. That's how they beat the Knicks the first two games. I feel that when the Knicks scored, they were already halfway up the court, get ready to score again. Because the Knicks only go, 6, 7 deep. That's the way Tibbs always played. Whereas Indiana could go 10, 11 deep, and you wear them down by running at them all the time. And I feel as though you forgot that. Also, last night as well, bruh, I feel as though that Halliburton didn't play his best game because for them to have won the first two games, he controlled the pace of the series. He controlled the pace of the series, man. And the first two wins of the Garden were some good wins. They seem like they got away from their basics last night. So we're going to see how they respond on Tuesday night. How do you feel about this series and especially the game that you saw last night, Will?
I'll be honest, man. Like it was never gonna be, like a sweep or anything like that. I think
No.
that of course New York was gonna get one, maybe two. I'll be honest, I thought the Pacers was a horrible matchup for New York because of the way that they play.
The pace.
And even like Brunson, he's a guard, but he prefers the half court. He likes the ISO, you know, get his in the mid range and try to post up and all of that. But and also the just the way the teams are built. Like Cat is an exception, but like the Pacers, their bigs, of course, they're not the same level as Cat, but all of their bigs can help them space the floor, and they run. Obi was a Nick. They know what he can do. But it's just a bad matchup. You get the running. Mitchell Robinson, Cat, and them. They don't want to run up and down all game long. Um,
No.
you know, Now Cat, I liked what I saw from him. He was actually getting to the basket. That's the big thing. We know he's a shooter, but at his size, you know, using his moves on the post back to the basket and also driving the ball face up, not trying to do a bunch of dribble moves, just going straight line drive to the rim. There's not many defenders, that can just flat out stop him when he's playing like that. You got to mix it up, and it allowed the other Knicks to be more involved because Brunson, he has the ball for so much of the time, and he's their best player, but still, you got to keep guys involved. You can't expect them to be ready to make a play, if you
Mm-hmm.
dribble for 18 seconds of the shot clock. That's just the reality of it. But I like to think Indiana's going to get back to what they do. I just don't. I don't know that as good as Cat is, like he can be streaky, and Brunson can too. And when you just really relying on two players being dominant, and then hoping that Bridges and OG are ready whenever they get the opportunity. You know, I mean that's not a recipe for success. Offense is built around rhythm. And not just for them, just for the few guys that come off the bench like McBride. As well. So Pacers get back to running. We can go ahead and wrap this up.
Yeah, yeah, man, I agree with you. And the point you were making about Cat, bruh, Cat, like you said, when he plays down low, very few people can stop him. But he falls in love with the jump shot sometimes. I've always been a Cat fan since he's been at St. Joe's Metuchen in high school. He had that rare ability where he could shoot from the outside, score on the inside, and the way that Cat played showed up last night, he's a problem. He took
Yep.
the game over. He took the game
Now,
over.
JP, one thing to monitor, it did look like at a point Cat was really favoring one of his knees.
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
fourth quarter. I hope he's all right. You know what I mean? Because they definitely need him, and I want it to be a
Oh, they
fair
need him.
fight.
They need him.
We'll have to monitor that. Indiana gets back to doing what they do, and God forbid Cat can't play, just pack them up, man. Pack the Knicks up.
Yeah, yeah, man. Yeah, you're right. You're right about that. I mean, still an interesting series, bro. It's still a very interesting series. Like you said, Knicks lose tomorrow night. You know what they say? 1, 2, 3, Cancun. They be on their way to Cancun, man.
Yep.
They lose tomorrow night. They're not scared to win. They're not scared of the Garden. They love playing in the Garden. So we'll see what happens. Well, let's go on now. We'll stick to the NBA. We'll get to the WNBA in a minute. But let's talk about now the NBA draft. As the Dallas Mavericks won the number one pick, and San Antonio Spurs are picking second, and my Philadelphia 76ers are picking third. Well, I'm going to tell you something right now, good brother. You mark my words on this. If the Sixers mess up this third pick, I'm done. I'm serious. I'm done forever. And you know what? Something in the back of my mind tells me that it possibly could happen. It possibly could happen that they would mess this pick up. I heard, from what I'm hearing, is San Antonio is in love with Dylan Harper. I heard that they could possibly even get rid of Stephen Castle for Dylan Harper. Dylan Harper. You know what? I would actually consider trading that third pick for Stephen Castle. I would, because Stephen Castle is a big guard. He's like 6'5", 6'6", great defender. Jumper's still developing, but he got superstar like tendencies. And he would take some of the pressure off Maxey, especially off the defensive end, because the Sixers already got small guards, Maxey and McCain. What are they, 6'2", 6'1", or whatever? And you add like a Stephen Castle for the third pick, then guess what? You got something there. Let me say this about the Sixers. If I'm doing a pick, I'm taking Ace Bailey at number 3. I am taking Ace Bailey. But the 3 things that I heard was this: the number 3 pick and Paul George for Lauri Markkanen. I also heard the number 3 pick and they'll trade back to 7 and get Herb Jones in the 7th pick. The only way I would consider doing that, because the other guys that's rated high on my draft board, probably at number 3, is Johnson from Texas. They said his combine was lights out. They said he could really shoot the basketball. One scout said, I think he's from Europe, one scout said he's the best teenage shooter he's ever seen. Also, I heard this other trade, that they're willing to trade the number 3 pick for Cam Johnson and maybe the 19th for 27th pick. Bruh, they do that. I'm done. Now here's the kicker. This is the one. Paul George is the number 3 pick for Kevin Durant. Bruh, we talk about KD 30, 31, 32. No problem. We talk about 37-year-old KD. Yeah, he can still put the ball in the basket, but you need younger, fresher legs. And Daryl Morey's the type that would go for this type of trade too, in my opinion, because he's still chasing stars instead of fit. Now, KD can get his numbers in any system. Don't get me wrong. It's just that the age of 37 is what bothers me. How do you feel about this, man? About what the Sixers and what they could do?
I feel like if you had a chance to come away with possibly, Castle or Lauri Markkanen, you have to consider it. But I agree with you. If you make the pick, I think Ace is the pick. I would be all right with Trey Johnson too. He's a really good player. I don't have any issue with him. I just think that the term upside I feel like is overused, but I think Ace is a little better than some people may realize. Because he did share the ball and the spotlight with Dillon, who of course was a top 3 probably player in America last season. But
Right.
Ace, you look, people are overreacting to the combine. In sneakers, he's still like 6'8", 6'9",
Mm-hmm.
with a plus wingspan, plus athleticism.
Mm-hmm.
Got a good mid range shot. The three, he can hit the three. Of course, can the shot improve? Yes. Can the handle improve? Yes. But you're picking for the future. You don't pick the number. You're not picking third in the draft thinking they're going to be the reason you win a championship next season. Honestly, and anything linked to a championship is, dependent upon the health of the big guy.
Yep.
And, almost nothing else you do is really a difference maker, because before the season, I think you and I can agree, before the season, before Embiid and Paul George's injuries and Maxi's injury, on paper, they brought Oubre back, they made some things happen. Sixers look pretty good, but every year there's something. So, you at this point, you got to pick, and hope you can find your next star. You got one in Maxi.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want another player that's playing the same position, as him. Now, of course, if somehow Dillon wasn't the pick at 2, you figure it
Mm-hmm.
out, because Dillon's a big guard. You can figure that out. But if it's not Dillon, who I think could be the best player from the draft, I'll go Ace. You know what I'm saying? Cooper's not an option, so I'll go Ace. They've been the top 3 the whole time. I don't know why we're
Mm-hmm.
reinventing, the wheel with all of that. And I agree. KD, bro, KD about to be firing a card carrying member of AARP, bro. Like, if that's not it, you know what I'm saying? Unless he's signing for a vet minimum, and we know that's not the case.
If if, K, if KD was on a team that needs a wing player and they're just one piece away from a championship, like for instance, KD would be perfect on Houston. KD would be perfect in San Antonio. KD would be perfect in Cleveland. He'd be perfect in those spots. Where the Sixers are at now, you're basically giving yourself a 1-year window because, excuse me, you don't know what's going to happen with Joel Embiid. We don't know what he's going to come back with next year.
Bro, at this
So I
point,
mean,
I'll be honest with you. It's probably a tall order, but I would let Embiid get healthy and show that he's healthy, and I would trade him as soon as I could, bro, and get as much as I could for him. I just it's hard for me to believe, and I don't, of course, I don't wish injury on anyone, but every year, bro, it's like something. You know what I mean? Like
something. Will, it's crazy with the Sixers, man. Like you said, it's always something. 40 years of this. And I'm telling you, they find a way to mess this shit up. I'm done with the Sixers. I've been going through this for 40 years almost, bruh, of nonsense. Bad trades, bad drafting. It's like, man, come on, man. When is enough is enough? The only reason the team used to be the Clippers. They're almost as bad as the modern day Clippers. But I want to see what Daryl Morey does because, my faith in him is like, it's like whatever. So we'll see what he does, man. But I agree, man. Ace Bailey. People talking about, well, he's inconsistent with his jump shot, or well, he's doesn't put the ball on the floor or create his own shots. I say, that's too much generalizing. In my opinion, I think Ace Bailey has a chance to be a very, 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 very good player. His potential is as much as anybody's. So, we'll see what happens, bro.
And one thing too, JP?
What's that?
Paul George's best days are behind him, But can you imagine, Ace coming into a situation where he's not the focal point of an offense, getting to
Mm-hmm.
just play his game, when he's on the court, and also learn from a player like Paul George, that two-way impact. I mean, year 2, 3, 4, that's a monster, bro. I already
Mm-hmm.
think he can be that, but learning from, you know, a multiple time All Star, player, that's not a opportunity that anybody gets.
To be honest with you, bruh, we talk about a Hall of Fame player.
Yeah, we are absolutely.
Paul George is a Hall of Famer, bruh. And you can learn from a Hall of Famer. He's already big on Ace Bailey. He's real big on him.
I remember he had him on his show.
Yeah.
hmm
So we're going to see, bruh. We're going to see. Let's move on to the world of WNBA now. Um, I guess we need to talk about the biggest news that happened last week and going into this week still. Caitlin Clark versus Angel Reese. Bruh, let me say this. Let me say this. People are making more of a big deal out of this than anything, especially the media. Um, the foul she gave Angel Reese, Angel was frustrated. She was angry. They lose about 30 points. She's probably just trying to consider, how this went down and stuff. And we see regular, fouls like that in basketball, bruh. People made too much of a big deal about this. What do you think,
I
Will?
I agree, and I think it comes down to a simple, thought process, and we don't share this sentiment, but I think there is a lot of people that are hoping something happens between these two young women
Yeah.
anytime they play, first and foremost. The second thing, I think there's a lot of people that, for whatever reason, they cannot accept or look at these women as what they are and as competitors. I don't care if it's little kids, boys, girls, women, men. Listen, in the heat of competition, it gets physical on the court. And
Mm-hmm.
we've all got into a shoving match, thrown elbows, all of that. We've all gotten, fouled. Something happens, and you want to run up on somebody. Look,
Yep.
man, at the end of the day, they are human. They're human. And Angel ran up on her and said something. She didn't run up swinging. She didn't, you know, chase her into the tunnel. Any of that type of stuff. She didn't carry on like old boy Isaiah Stewart from the Pistons. Like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's a blip. You know, in time. And so many other things worth talking about have happened, this WNBA season, man. We got one of the all-time greats in Asia Wilson playing, Caitlin Clark, her mob aside, she's making her case as an all-time player already. She
Yep.
has, if I'm not mistaken, she tied the most 20 and 10 games, 20 point, 10 assist games in WNBA history in like 40 games. You know, there's so many things that is happening and is getting overlooked because people that do not actually even tune in to the WNBA saw clips go viral of this bullshit.
Yeah. And it's crazy, man. I'm going to address the elephant in the room too. That's RG3. RG3 stood up here talking about some. Oh, it's pure. She hates kids. Man, stop it. It had nothing to do with no hate or anything like that. There, it was a basketball play where Angel Reese got fouled. Took a rough foul. They were down by 30 points. Angel Reese is a competitor. She was angry. She got caught in the heat of the moment. That's all it was. It was a heat of the moment play. That's all it was. And people made a big deal out of it to where it's gotten now. And I'm going to talk about Ryan Clark too for a minute, bruh. Because Ryan Clark doesn't need to explain anything to nobody, bruh. Some of these clowns out here talk about, well, he had a white girlfriend and his daughter is biracial. What the hell has that got to do with anything for you standing up for black women? I don't understand it. What the hell does that have to do with anything? It's crazy. And I feel as though Us in society sometimes, man, we get caught up in that stuff. Oh, she married a white man. So and now everything changes. Well, he married a white woman, and everything changes. No, it doesn't. You can still be black and still speak out on black issues if you're married to somebody else. Who cares? At that point, if you vibe with that person and that's your person, then that's good for you. But to sit up here and shit on this man, Ryan Clark, and call him a hypocrite, how the hell is he a hypocrite? How? We gotta stop this. We gotta stop this nonsense, man, of who's black and who ain't black. I'm gonna tell you, and you know what, Will? This has nothing to do with you. This is me on one of these little rants. Because half you new niggas all of a sudden got pro-black all of a sudden. You just got pro-black since George Floyd. I'm gonna keep it a buck with some of y'all. I'm gonna keep it a buck. So don't sit up here and downgrade somebody because they're in an interracial relationship or biracial and say they can't speak out on black issues. But some of y'all Negroes just got conscious like 5 years ago, or because you saw a clip on a YouTube or some Instagram clip, all of a sudden you think you know every damn thing when you don't. So just knock this shit off. And that was me just going for a rant like that, Will, because I get so tired of this stuff, like who is and who ain't niggas and stuff, and it's just tiring, bruh.
No, listen, man. That perspective is needed sometimes because at the end of the day, to everybody outside of our community, we are all niggas. You know what I mean? So that's true. That divisiveness is not needed. But Ryan Clark was right, and I'll be real. As far as RG3, bro, I don't want to hear nothing a supposed brother that calls himself a milkman, all over social media has to say, bro. Like, that if you talking about play-by-play analysis about football, maybe, you know what I'm saying? Because he was a good player before he got hurt. But that's part of the problem too. And I think it was Malcolm X. I don't know the exact quote, but it's essentially the fact that our community is the only community that looks to athletes, that looks to entertainers, to be the faces of the movement and to be the spokespeople of all people from our communities. When I have these people, I don't think every entertainer or every athlete or anything like that is not intelligent, but they are so far removed from the day-to-day issues of the common man, of the common woman. It's the same thing really with any politician. I feel like, not to get on a tangent, but if you have over a certain amount of money, you have no business being a president because you are removed from what the needs of the people are. You know what I mean? Like, how can you, a billionaire, determine what's good for me? You know what I'm saying? We down here scraping and scrapping for everything we get. How can you, in your 30-room mansion, how can you, Stephen A. Smith, who now wants to run for president,
come on, man, come on,
the face of anytime we need a response from a black person? You know what I mean? But that's where we are. And I wish we weren't there, you know what I'm saying? But that's why these shows, you know what I'm saying, like, are important, man. We don't have anything to lose. We don't have anything to gain. So all we have is transparency and honesty when we have these conversations.
Excellent, bruh. Excellent point. Excellent point. And like I said, man, with RG3, man, for him to sit up there and sit up there and say, that Angel Reese hates Caitlin Clark over a damn routine basketball play, and that's just crazy to me. And all he did was just give ammunition to those damn idiots out there who brings racism into this whole thing and calling her racist names. It's crazy.
He knew what he was doing because
he knew what he was doing.
That could have been any player, and Angel would have reacted the same way.
Exactly. It ain't got nothing to do with Caitlin White being white, and it ain't got nothing to do with Angel Reese being black. It was two competitive basketball players who one very hard when they were losing by 30 points, and she got a little upset. And that's what the whole thing was. We're making a big issue out of nothing. And that's my biggest thing. And for RG3 to sit up there and say what he said, it's just crazy. And then like we said, we got these knucklehead, dumbass people out here calling Angel Reese racial names and all that shit because she's a competitor. But like I said, though, it's nothing different. It's the same shit I saw as a little kid in the '80s when Georgetown, as a teenager, UNLV, Fab Five, all this stuff here. When you're a black team and you're perceived as quote unquote Black America's team or Black America's player, whatever, they deem you, they put a label on you as being controversial when actually you never did anything damn controversial, but play a game and play at a high level, and you might give some hard fouls, and then all of a sudden it's a problem. So and kudos to Caitlin Clark too, because she did speak up, and she did say that the stuff that Andrew Reese goes through has no place in our game. There's nothing racist about what happened, and I feel as though it's this too sometimes. And people might get upset what I'm about to say about this. I feel as though sometimes we vilify Caitlin Clark, especially in our community, as being the enemy, and I don't see her as that. That's a girl that's supposed to go out there and hoop. That's all she's trying to do is hoop. And I'm get these silly ass debates on both sides, whether maybe more so, of course, on the Caitlin Clark side with their racism, but we get to these silly ass debates about like we got this myth of Caitlin Clark with white supremacy or something like that, and it's like, come on, man, knock that shit off. Heck, you don't even know we weren't even watching the basketball because of this shit. So stop this shit for real. But for RG3 and them Caitlin Clark Caitlin Clark fanatics coming to Angel Reese, y'all need to stop this shit, man, for real. Cause y'all looking silly out. Y'all looking dumb, silly, and ignorant.
The other
For
thing,
real.
JP, they need to do is go back to the format of how these shows used to be. It's hardly about the actual sport, and they used to bring in former players based on what sport they played. You know what I mean? Like, why are we listening to RG3 talk about basketball at all anyway?
Yeah.
Like, why? I'm sure somebody else, Carmelo, just picking a random player, like former player, somebody else will gladly, take the time to talk some hoops. Shit, how many former great women's players is out there that they could, pull in the studio and get their take on it? We got a bunch of grown men sitting around, trying to scrutinize these women, and honestly, most of them don't even watch them play.
Don't even watch them play. And you know what? Kudos to the women they do have out there. I do like Monica McNutt and Andrea Carter, and what's the sister's name that comes on?
Chiney.
Chiney, yeah, they do a good job, man. They do a real good job, and they're very outspoken on stuff as well. They call stuff out as they see it.
Yep. Black women doing their thing, and all former hoopers. That's important.
All former hoopers. But of course, you got the tap dancer. He won't even touch that. And need to get to who I call the tap dancer is. His initials are SS. I put it to you that way.
Man,
he's always got to play. He doesn't take a side. He always got to play. Well, or this, that, and the third. Like you said, I don't know who made him spokesperson for black people. I have no idea. Because
listen, bro, he's doing everything except his job the way he's supposed to do it.
The way he's supposed to do
it. He on soap operas. Like, come on, man. Like, what the hell are we doing here?
Let's get back to the game of basketball. That's the whole thing. And like I said, he to me, when he was a journalist in Philadelphia, when he wrote for the Philadelphia Inquirer, he was a respected journalist. But since he got that taste of Hollywood fame, boy, he did a complete 360, compared to what he did. And, even the whole LeBron thing, not going to harp on that. But, even that was wrong. Talk about, it's a game of basketball. You sit up here talking about as a father, you shouldn't let this happen. And then, man, what the hell are you talking about? And then he sit there giving out misinformation and shit about him not being at Kobe's funeral and stuff. It's like, man, what does that got to do with anything anyway? What does that got to do with anything?
I'm not advocating for violence by any means, but he's gonna say something about the wrong person one of these days, bro. And not everybody has as much to lose or is as composed as LeBron. Some of these cats really will throw their career away. You know what I mean? Like, he needs to tread lightly the way he's talking about people, their families, and especially spreading misinformation about shit like that.
I I mean, he even came on there one day and was talking about the late great Nolan Richardson. Nolan Richardson's still very much alive. What are you talking about?
Yeah, and then, Nolan Richardson was at Arkansas practice with Coach Kyle. I'm like,
That's what they were saying. You know how stupid you look saying some dumbass shit like that? Like, come on, man. Like, for real. Like, this guy, man. He a piece of work at times, bruh. And, you know, sometimes his basketball takes a good, it's like this ignorant shit he's talking about Wilt Chamberlain. Oh, Wilt Chamberlain played against 5'9", dudes and stuff, especially white dudes and stuff. He don't even know his damn research on it. It's sad. He don't even do his damn research. You sound like some of these cats out here who just started watching basketball that would say the same shit. It's ridiculous. And then he's the one that really started this whole shit about this title shit too. Oh, you gotta have this many titles to be the GOAT. You gotta have this. That's him starting that shit. And people follow right behind that. Well, what you call it got 6? Jordan's the greatest. He got 6. Well, Bill Russell got 11. So what the hell are you talking about if we going by that?
Yep.
It's like this whole shit is ridiculous, Will, with this whole doggone like title shit too.
Bro,
Will got 2.
He moved the goalposts to discredit LeBron, you know, and like we don't measure everybody like that. You know, it's the same thing with MVP discussions now. Is it best player on the best team, or is it best player or best statistics or whatever? You know, like people move the goalposts to push the agenda that benefits the player they want, or to tear down the player they don't want. You know, to be, you know, on the pedestal at the moment.
Yeah. You know, and I mean, you know, I don't mean to go on this rant about you know what Stephen A. Smith be talking about sometime, bro. But it's like the Jordan and LeBron debate, bro. It's tiring. It is tiring. Why can't we just celebrate both? Why? Why can't we just celebrate, you know, LeBron being the best player of his era and Jordan being the best player of his era? Why somebody always got to be the GOAT all the time? Who's your top 5? Who's your top 10? The shit is tiring. A great player is a great player, period. You know, and I'm going beyond that. People show their ignorance by, oh, he don't use, like, they look at the player from the 60s and 70s. Oh, he don't use his left hand. He uses his right hand too much. That's the way they were taught, dummy. That's the way they were taught back then. You know, it's like people can't accept players of their eras would be better today than they were back then, and players of today wouldn't be like the size they are nowadays compared to back then. People don't understand that. And it's just ridiculous, man. Some of these tapes you see.
1,000%, bro. We had, you know, great players, great athletes in every generation, every era, man. You know, Will Chamberlain would have been a freak in any generation. You know,
any era.
He don't get, you know, the same respect for his athletic prowess. But even Bill Russell, when you look at the clips, he's jumping over dudes. You know, he's out there, you know, running the court like a guard. You know, same thing. You know, Shaq, put Shaq in any era. You know, he's going to stand out. He's a freak of nature. You know, Giannis, Wemby. You know, these are guys that are truly unique.
LeBron.
LeBron, of course.
LeBron would be great in any era. I mean, you know, I don't like I said, Will, I don't do GOAT debates no more. I don't do top 5s, top 10s. I don't do none of that stuff. We just got to accept the players for what we're seeing and regardless of what era it's in, and say, hey, they were great. KD great for his era. You know what I mean? I don't get into these debates no more of would have, could have, should have when it doesn't happen, when it's not the reality of it. You know, we get to these debates. All I can say is the great players that I've seen in my lifetime, some of them are in this era. Whether you talk about LeBron, whether you talk about Kevin Durant, whether you talk about Steph Curry, Westbrook, you know, you talk about players like that ilk, Carmelo Anthony, the Joker. You know, these players that we're seeing are all-time greats. They're generational. We talk about Kawhi Leonard too. I throw him in there too. Duncan, of course. You know, Kobe. We throw them all in there. Dwayne Wade. There's so many that we've seen. You know,
JP, I want to get your opinion on something real quick while we having a cross generations conversation. Yeah. So one thing that I notice a lot of like old heads and people that want to be anti like LeBron and some of the newer players use is, well, if they can hand check, he wouldn't do that. Did we not have 20, 30, 40, 50 point, performances and beyond while people could hand check, while people could literally be damn near clothesline out the air?
Yeah.
Great players figure it out.
Well, I'm gonna tell you this about LeBron. Did not LeBron play in an era where you could hand check at one time?
He did. Yep, and in the slow era, like they was playing slow,
And, and,
physical
and the
basketball.
slower era.
Yep.
Right. The Detroit Pistons. Were
Bro,
they not a physical team?
Bruce Bowen was hand checking the shit out of everybody he guarded.
Everybody. So what the hell is everybody talking about? LeBron couldn't play in a hand checking era. To be honest with you, LeBron was giving you more points if you want to look at his point averages back then with the hand checking. I mean, of course, he passes the ball around stuff, but LeBron was giving you 30 points a game back then. What the hell are y'all talking about?
People don't realize their own arguments work against them. LeBron, when he's locked in, especially when he was younger, was an impactful defender. Do you understand at his size, with his strength and athleticism, what he could do if he was allowed to just hand check right now? Some of these players wouldn't be able to move. You know what I mean?
Wouldn't be able to move. But Will, we saw LeBron at 21 years old play against the Detroit Pistons and literally took the game over.
Yep, 29 straight points to end the game.
29, one of the greatest performances we've ever seen in NBA history.
And
that was doing a more physical hand checking era. What are y'all talking about?
Yep.
What are y'all talking about? I mean, he came in his rookie year in a rough era. You know what I mean? Very physical era. He came in, gave you 20, 25, and 5 at 19 years old.
Yep. Straight out of prom.
Straight out the prom. Come on, man. I mean, what are we talking here? What are we talking about? I just don't understand it. But yeah, man, Will, I think we covered all bases with basketball. And this is a lively show, man, of course. But before we roll out, we got to talk about this series on Netflix, man, that I think we both recommend. You've seen it, and I'm on the last episode now. There's a show called Forever that's on Netflix. And from my perspective, I was on Netflix with a couple. What was that? 2 weeks? Was that last week? Last Saturday wasn't no games on. So I was like, let me see what's on Netflix here, and let me see what type of shows they are. So I just happened to flick through, and there was a show called Forever on. I looked at the previews. I'm like, I don't know about this. I was like, man, I ain't tried. This show looks cheesy. But then I said, let me go back, just take a look at the. You know what I mean? If I watch a half episode of it and I don't like it, I'm done, bruh. I watched that first episode. I watched 3 episodes at night, bruh. It really got me hooked, bruh. And it's a very, very good show that remind people of I guess somewhat their teenage years, their first love, or even to some degree black love. It's a very good show. There's no violence in there, no police brutality that you see, and it's a good show. Where I put it to you this way, where you see the importance of having a black father in your family, and the mother, the mothers are great mothers to their children. Although I think the cat, what's his name? I'm talking about the character, Justin. I think his mom's a little overbearing at times with him. Yeah. She's very overbearing. But overall, man, I would recommend that for kids to watch. It's more of an adult show. It is, but it shows like the black family image in a good way. Although the girl Keisha, she comes from a single parent home, but you see the father when he returns and how. And I'm not going to give everything away, but of course, I got to watch the last episode. But you see how important the father is, especially in a young woman's life and everything. How do you feel about this show, bro?
Forever's an excellent show, man. I'm glad they got renewed for a season 2. Looking forward to that. Bianca and I both really, really enjoyed it. I think they did a good job of showing, a two parent household, the importance of that, but also
Yeah.
showing the importance of even if you don't have that, a village, and they just, it was so many different layered, um, issues and things that was dealt with, it was really, really unique, man. And I gotta, give, of course, the cast their flowers, but Myra Brock Kill, man, like she's one of them ones, like you look at her resume, or she was a writer, and producer on Moesha, Jamie Foxx show. Then she created Girlfriends,
Mm-hmm.
being Mary Jane. I didn't watch that, but I know it's critically acclaimed by black women. The show Love Is, I think it only had one season. It was a phenomenal show, and it got canceled for reasons outside of her control. A lot of people were upset about that. The show The Game, and then Now Forever. I mean, whatever she touches is gold, man. And she is one of the best I've ever seen at writing black characters and black love. And the way, I like the whole show, but my favorite thing with Forever definitely was the representation of a black father figure, whether it's the
Yes.
grandfather or Justin's dad, and that's so important.
Yeah, and that's what I like, man. And you didn't see the stereotypical shows of violence, like what I'm saying, like you see that stuff. You see a normal black couple try to make it in this world where they're like everybody is like pulling their one arm one way, pulling them the other way, and they got to figure out what they're trying to do, and what they're going to do, and I can't wait for season two, bro. I hope it's on there for a while, man. This is definitely probably my new favorite. I still watch All American and stuff. I think that's still a pretty good series, but because I don't watch that outside of sports. I don't watch that much TV, bro. I don't watch that much TV at all. 95% of the time you'll see me watching sports, bro. But the shows Forever and like I said, All American and Abbott Elementary. I watched that too. Those are my three go to shows. That I really enjoy, man. But just Forever though, man. This is a special series. And it's funny the character that plays Keisha. She really looked like her age in the. They both look their age, but she's actually like 27, 28.
Yeah,
She's
bro.
about like 17.
We got introduced to her. She was in a show called Greenleaf that we watched on
I
OWN,
heard, yeah,
and
yeah.
that's a good one too. But that's where we got introduced to her. She looked the exact same.
Yeah, because she looks like a cross in between Lauren Hill and Nia Long. She looks like a young Nia Long. Like, of course,
Uh-huh.
Nia Long and Lauren Hill. That's who she reminds me of a lot.
Okay.
Like a cross between them.
Okay. I mean,
You know. But
I
yeah,
could
man.
see the mix of what you're describing to me.
Yeah, yeah. Don't get it twisted, man. Nia Long's still bad. Don't get it. I'm just saying, like, when she was like in her early 20s, shoot, Nia Long always be a crush, bruh. You know what I mean? For real. But nah,
Absolutely, man.
but nah, but anyway, anyway though, bruh. But yeah, but nah, but seriously though, I would recommend this show for anybody, bruh. It's a very, very, very good show. And hopefully, I mean, we already got season two, but hopefully we go on to the up and coming seasons where hopefully we see them married and with a family and stuff, and seeing from the point of view from a young married family with children of the struggles they might go through. As we're growing along with them through the process of this show. So I would recommend this show for everybody to watch and see, and even if you go through some things in life. I'm older now. I'm talking about when you're young, you go through you learn some lessons from this show. It's a very good show that I would recommend for anybody. But yeah, Will. But anyway, it's Memorial Day. Everybody's out there barbecuing. I saw you out there there on that grill yesterday, boy. You had that, what you have on there yesterday? You had, what, seafood on there?
Yeah, some shrimp on there, man. Something light,
Yeah, ain't nothing like, man. That stuff look good. Yo, if y'all haven't seen Will with the steaks and stuff, when he be cooking up them steaks and the ribs and stuff, that stuff looks immaculate when he be cooking that stuff, when he be chefing it up. But
Yeah,
yeah, man.
just trying to keep the old school generation alive, man, in certain
That's
ways.
it.
The
That's
midnight
it.
grill and whatnot.
That's it. That's it, man. You know, like I always tell anybody, I take grill food over oven food any day of the week. Grill food is the best. And I'm gonna tell you all something else too. It don't matter whether it's wintertime, rain, or whatever. You can grill all year round. I see people say, I ain't grilling. It's too cold out there to grill. You better get that damn grill out there and grill some shit up.
That grill will warm you up.
That grill will warm you up, boy. Ain't nothing like grill food. And it's more tastier too. Now you don't want your shit burnt up too. I know people who can burn that stuff up like a hockey puck, bro. You don't want that. You don't want that to happen. But nah, man. But seriously though, on a note though, once again, thanks to my co-pilot here, Will. On behalf of me, JP, Will, you got any shout outs you want to shout out first, brother?
Oh man, shout out my co-pilot, you JP. Shout out the family, of course, and shout out to again, man, the athletes, and everybody that's doing everything and giving us all of these great topics to discuss.
I concur with that, man. Shout outs to our listeners. Shout outs to you, of course, Will. And I hope you all enjoy your day. And like we're saying, you got the game tonight. You got OKC versus Timberwolves tonight. I think the game's on at 8:30. And if you're not doing anything but barbecuing, I suggest you run to Netflix, start binge watching the show forever, right until the game time. And on behalf of me, JP, of course, my co-pilot here, my boy Will Lyons, we say peace, and we'll see y'all again in the near future.
Peace.